From Lockstep Technology Group, I am Ali Adib, and this is a closed beta project, the show where we talk to IT, cybersecurity experts, pioneers, and influencers about how we can live and grow in digital age. Okay, first of all, thank you for joining me.
Yep.
I know you're busy, super busy, I know this time around.
Nah, that's fine.
So I want to ask you this question because it's kind of like has been back in my mind a lot. And I know a lot of companies are asking themselves right now is how to future-proof themselves. When I say future-proof, how to enable themselves to have a remote workforce, set up the infrastructure, have laptops and all that stuff. But like they always seem very like superficial, just having a laptop, being able to move around. But like what did we do? We've been doing this you guys have been doing this for a long time. Being able to work remotely, being secure, obviously, and then serving our clients. What steps did we take originally to build that foundation to make it such easy for us to just work remotely, like easy?
Yeah. So, I mean, from the beginning, we built the company from the ground up as a remote workforce. Even though we had an office location, we knew that almost all of our work was going to be done with customers' infrastructure, not our own. So we built our infrastructure just how we would recommend a customer building it, by making sure that we have remote access to everything that we need. All of our internal users already had laptops. So for us to make the shift from an internal workforce to a remote workforce was pretty straightforward for us. Go ahead.
No, I want to follow up. Like, what can you go into specifics? Like, what it took? Like, you guys had the mindset on ready, but like, what infrastructure did you make to make sure one, we're secure moving forward, wherever we may be, and our files are secure and accessible from everywhere. But what are steps do we take to make sure that we can actually do this and provide service?
To kind of give you an example, I'll kind of go through what a lot of our clients are going through right now and what we've helped them with. Most of our clients have a well-established infrastructure already, and it's in either their main offices or in a data center or potentially even in the cloud. And to some degree, they all have a remote workforce. There's always salespeople, or there's some portion of the staff that already has a way of accessing things remotely, whether that is a virtual desktop or it's just VPN access. Or it's published applications and published services that are available over the internet without having to, connect into the infrastructure itself. What we saw clients having a problem with was capacity. They have this great infrastructure where majority of their workforce is local, and all of that workforce is now part of the remote workforce. And we're seeing everything from bandwidth issues on those incoming connections, license issues where remote users are only licensed for a certain number of users, and those are having to rapidly expand. So for us, because we were already in the position of designing it with remote and all of our users internally, even when we were at the office, we worked in a remote capacity. So our systems were designed, even when we're in an office, we are really just remote users all sitting in the same place. So from the ground up, ours is built as a remote environment. And for the most part, all of our clients have that functionality too, and are already set up with that. It was really just the capacity issues that people were running into. We address those a couple different ways. Obviously, bandwidth is one thing. So if we have customers that have bandwidth limitations set on their connections, but the connections could be faster, we're talking with the ISPs and the providers to say, hey, can you, crank up our bandwidth or allow overages? And it's a really quick change to make, and it releases some of those concerns. The other is that we've gone in and kind of optimized their user experience. So we may lower the quality on a session to get more bandwidth, and also increase filtering for traffic back and forth. So making sure users aren't connected into the work environment, and also streaming Netflix. We keep that traffic off that connection so that it's not choking their internet usage. The other that we see isn't really a issue we've seen with any of our clients so far, but one of the big concerns is security. So So for the customers that have established remote environments, they're pretty secure and they're pretty locked down, and because there's an existing infrastructure that's been there. one of the concerns is that for customers that do not have that and have said, oh, we need to open this up for more users, or potentially their old policy was only laptops and computers owned by the company are allowed to connect to those services. Those restrictions may have been relaxed and said, okay, now any computer can connect, so that people can use their home computers because they don't have a laptop to work on that's company owned. The other is opening up new services, saying, hey, let's just open RDP to the internet, let people RDP in. And I know security for the most part, in most of our clients' minds, is not the highest priority. It's getting people back to work. But everyone needs to be aware that the rate of attacks and compromises that are going on is also increasing, just taking advantage of the fact that people are doing this. So if you open up new services, so we're working with our clients and making sure that if we open new things up, that it's also secure at the same time. Kind of hand in hand with security, one of the other requests that we've seen that's coming in is the monitoring of employee behavior. So basically making sure people are actually working remote. We've deployed some things for them that allow us to use analytics and say, okay, this user was logged in for this much time, this is how much they did. So it's not to the level of spying on an employee, but it really just shows that they were connected and that they were working.
Accountability.
What's that?
Accountability.
Right, it has some accountability for it. So we generate reports for them and let them monitor all their activity. The other is also identifying where these connections are coming from. So obviously you're going to have a lot more remote sessions coming in, and you want to allow users to come in and work from wherever their home is, but a lot of these people have never connected before. So when you start looking at your traffic logs and your rules that you may have allowed for certain people or certain areas to connect, you really got to watch where these connections are coming from. And if you're a Georgia-based company and all your employees are in Georgia, and all of a sudden you have remote users that are coming in from all over the country or out of the country, then that's a concern to look at and make sure that those are actually where those users are coming from, and they're not accounts that have gotten compromised.
So what tips do you have as far as the security goes? I know you mentioned a lot of people that's not a primary objective for them at this moment, which is kind of scary given the amount of rates of cyber attacks currently. Right. What tips do you have for the companies such as us or any big or small that try to shift their workforce to remote, to consider that, kind of like collaboration with enabling and optimizing their workforce?
The biggest thing is just to keep security in mind. When you're making changes to the environment, if you're going to open up something, if you already have established security tools in place, after you open up something new or you make a change to a policy, run that scan again and just double check it, make sure either nothing has changed or that there's not a new extremely vulnerable exploit out there that's you've now exposed. So it's really just keeping security in the back of your mind, even though it's not the highest priority for everyone, is to keep that in mind when making changes that, yes, you may need to get this done right now, but what can you do to do it quickly, but also the most secure way possible? We've helped our clients through that. And like I said, we've had two where we've had to work with increased capacity and some with, increased functionality. The only other issue that we're really seeing out there as far as our clients are concerned is the internal capacity. So they have a server infrastructure, but if they have a remote workforce that comes in and works off of specific servers, we're seeing where those servers are no longer able to handle the amount of users that are coming in. What we've done for them is if they have the internal resources available, obviously we will spin up more servers to serve that demand. The other is we've talked to a few where we have spun up additional resources inside of their DR environment. So a lot of our customers have a DR environment ready to go. And instead of failing over to DR or considering it a DR, there's resources that are sitting on that other side that are not in use. So we were able to spin up additional work, power over there by using some of that equipment to join their existing production environment and provide the resources they need for the additional remote user workload. The last one we did was also with Azure. So we've spun up some additional workloads inside of Azure and connected that environment to theirs and made it a overflow functionality from their internal infrastructure. So when they start having capacity issues, they can start rolling over to that Azure environment and continue to work with the increased load.
So you mentioned Azure. How important is cloud when you're trying to move your workforce to remote or just having access to different files? Is this something that people need to consider now moving forward, or is that something like kind of hybrid cloud type of thing?
Yeah.
And on premises, on-prem versus, on cloud?
Mm-hmm. So the biggest benefit with the customers that have their infrastructures in Azure is that one of the choke points we're seeing is that local ISP, is that all your users are remote now and everyone's coming into your ISP connection. Well, even for the customers that have enough bandwidth, are seeing that there are ISP issues with contention on bandwidth, and they're not getting the service they expect. And once you are getting limited by the ISP, short of putting in a secondary connection or something that's going to take a long time to get installed, you're restricted to whatever performance issues the ISP is having. If you've got your environment in a cloud environment, Azure, Amazon, any of those, then obviously the demand is not on your infrastructure at the data center, and you can, their bandwidth doesn't seem to have been impacted by any of this yet. Mm-hmm. The other issue we're seeing as it relates to cloud is that a lot of people's home internets are being stressed. So we're getting lots of reports of, hey, I'm having issues with clients connecting. Because we've got the right monitoring and analytics in place, we're able to see it and say, well, the issue is not on your end. Unfortunately, it's on their end. Either there's a issue with the ISP itself and not getting enough bandwidth, or it's the fact that people are working from home and the kids are watching Netflix.
So, like you mentioned, a lot of problem solving for our clients. And the question I have is, what is the best way to connect with your IT department when you're an end user? Everyone's having trouble right now, obviously, but what tips do you have when you're communicating with them?
The biggest thing is that we'd recommend for anybody who has an established IT department to send out some communications to all of the employees with specific information on if you're having this kind of problem, or if you're need these kind of resources, here's who to contact and how to escalate. I know a lot of IT departments are overburdened right now, especially with looking at a lot of these issues and trying to resolve them. So just clear communication and making sure that everybody knows that there's a phone number, an email address, whatever it is that they need to do, so that there's a clear path to follow and that they can get the help they need.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about being overloaded, the staffed IT departments. What lessons can be learned from the situation that we're in right now, that a lot of people are like moving away from their offices, and a lot of emphasis on the structures or responsibility being called upon the IT staff at IT departments? And most of the time, as you and I know, they're understaffed as it is. Mm-hmm. What message do you have? What lessons lesson learned can you share to the CFOs or the leaders that are building the teams around them moving forward?
Mm-hmm. One of the biggest lessons learned, this one isn't in particular to IT staffing, but the biggest lesson learned is that when doing a disaster recovery plan and a business continuity plan, a lot of people have plans that are out there that don't have an established process for an event like this. There is no, the disaster is not that your data center is down, or that a building's been destroyed, or that, there's the normal 1, 2, 3 class disasters. It's everybody has to work remote now and nobody can go outside. Majority of the business continuity plans and DR plans don't account for this. It's how do we do this? How do we switch over to a remote workforce overnight? And the biggest concern there is that work this into your plans in the future, and also have that you don't always have to have the capacity available, because you wouldn't want to have make the investment into a infrastructure that's going to be unused most of the time. But understand the plan and make sure you know how to switch those resources and make them available as soon as possible, and that you have a secure, well-functioning remote capacity already. That you already have a way to do it. Again, most of the clients have it because they have a small workforce. It's make sure that functionality can be ramped up to handle your entire workforce becoming remote.
So you talked about enhancing and expanding the digital resources, but how can companies enhance or expand their IT staffing and the department itself?
When it comes to staffing, so we're seeing, unfortunately it's a twofold, is that there's more concern and more issues coming in for IT to handle. And at the same time, some companies are having to make cuts in IT, which makes the already overburdened IT staff even more overburdened. For situations like that, you can either come to a company like us where we can help all of our existing clients. We have had additional help be requested, and we've ramped up our services to them to help them out with issues they're having and addressing some of this. Or if you're not a current client of ours, you reach out to whoever is your IT provider, whether it's a managed service or just an IT shop, and see if you can get some additional help. The other is really focusing on what the core concerns are. So you may have to tell people, when it comes to the IT work that's coming in, if people are in there requesting things, all of that work has to extremely be prioritized now. Meaning, if there are people that can't connect and get in, then they're going to be a higher priority. If people are coming in saying, "Hey, I need this change made," or something like that, it's something they could live without. That's really got to be prioritized so that you can keep the workforce working while still taking care of those concerns, but they've got to fall to a lower priority. So it may be up to upper management, so the CEOs, CIOs, to all understand that they may need their backing in order to say, we have to communicate to the employees that these things aren't a priority right now, so that you're going to have to wait longer. They really need executive sponsorship for these enforcements of what really is the priority and what needs to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Do you have any free or useful resources that you can share with your colleagues in other IT departments that are struggling right now that they can probably benefit from some resources?
There's not specifically. There's a lot of tools out there, and it's all depending on what the particular need is. There are monitoring tools that are out there that you can get for free that will only monitor certain a free amount of devices that you could use. There are a lot of diagnostic tools that are out there. It really goes back to what the issue is in different environments. So even with a remote enabled workforce client, we've got some that use Citrix. We have some that use RDS services. We've got some that use VMware. So it all depends on what system they're using. One of the things that we can help with is that if they are having issues, we've had some clients that said, "Hey, we're having a internet bandwidth issue," and we came into their system and looked at it and said, "Well, it appears that way, but you're not. You're actually having a storage I/O problem." So, working with us, we can help you, figure out really what it is. You don't want to go through that process, assume you have a bandwidth problem, and start troubleshooting that and getting more bandwidth, talking to the ISP. And when you get that adjusted, you've made no progress. The issue hasn't gone away. So, making sure that we really know what the root cause of the problems of any issues are before, trying to make any adjustments to the environment.
Mm-hmm. So I have one more question for you before I let you go. Is I think I made this comment before. Your office looks like a spaceship, or like you're a command center. What tips do you have? You're kind of like a seasoned work from home person that we all work from home. But like, what tips do you have for people that are actually starting to work from home to stay productive and focused and deliver that high quality products or services provided to people?
Right. So one of the biggest things I've always said, and this was even before we were all forced to work from home, was one of the downsides of the bad things about working from home is that you can't go home. You're there already. So having get a good workspace to work in. Try to keep it isolated. If you've got a room that you can close off to animals, kids, other noises, whatever, make that your work area. Get up in the morning, take your shower, throw on some clothes, may not be, work clothes, but, get dressed, go into that office and, do your work, take a lunch break, walk out of your office, go get lunch from downstairs or whatever you need to do. And then at the end of the day, walk away, at the end of the day, shut your machine down or even leave it up, leave that office and make a mental break from being at work. A lot of people are, they're getting up, they start working, and it just kind of the whole day bleeds together. And at the end of the day, you haven't done anything. You've been sitting in the same chair all day, and it stresses out, the rest of the family as well as the employees. So that's one of the biggest ones. The other is make your environment comfortable. If you've got to make, move furniture around, whatever you need to do to make your work environment more comfortable. The biggest is just remember that you're technically at work. And make that the delineation between work and home time. People make the joke that you sit on the left side of the couch while you're at work, and you go home, you move to the right side of the couch. So try to keep a bigger delineation than that. Like I said, that where you can use that separate workspace, and don't be in that space if you're not working. Don't watch TV in that room. If you are off the clock or taking a break, then make that separation.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. Appreciate it.
Problem.
I'm going to get back 30 minutes to your day.
All right.
And good luck. Have a great Friday.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you for listening to Closed Beta Project. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please review, like, and share it with your friends and colleagues. The Closed Beta Project is produced and hosted by me. If you have any questions, please visit our website at lockstepgroup.com. Until the next episode, have a great week.